الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين. So welcome back everyone to Blissfully Blessed, Tafsir Surah Ibrahim. We are up to verse 27. We were actually still in the middle of verse 27, so we'll just do a quick recap with the Arabic and flowing translation. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يثبت الله الذين آمنوا بالقول الثابت في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة ويضل الله الظالمين ويفعل الله ما يشاء. Okay, so verse 27. Thus, through a firm word, Allah grants firmness to the believers both in this world and in the hereafter. As for the wrongdoers, Allah lets them go astray. Allah does whatever He wills. So remember, we had said that this qawl al-thabit, this firm word by which Allah strengthens the believers in this life and in the next life, is the kalima, is la ilaha illallah, the kalima of tawheed, kalima which bears a testimony to the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as we had mentioned, that this is a source of strength in this world, and it grounds us, it gives us meaning. It allows us to become that firmly rooted, beautiful tree, the parable of which Allah gave previously in the surah that we covered last week, that is firmly entrenched in the ground through its tawheed, and its branches bear the fruit of that and reach up to the sky, which are the deeds that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts as they ascend unto Him when they are sincere. And so this grounds us and gives weight to our deeds. And again, the qabul is because of the qabul, or acceptance of deeds, is dependent on la ilaha illallah. If we have beautiful deeds but no tawheed to ground them in, then there can be no ascent. If there is no root to ground the trunk into the earth, then there can be no branches that sprout out from it. There can be no ascent without the grounding of tawheed, of la ilaha illallah. So that's really important to remember when we think about good deeds that don't have this grounding, which really is the call of the fitrah. And of course, these deeds are raised unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by His permission. They're performed by His tawfiq. And what we really wanted to get into is how this qawl helps us at the time of our death, because we talked about how it grounds us in this dunya, but how does it keep us firm at the moment of our death, that ultimate moment that we shall all experience when we depart from this world. It is this word that allows us to enter into a new world under the banner of Iman. It is that salvaging testimony of Allah's oneness that the Rasul begged Abu Talib in his last breaths to just utter, so that he could have this one thing with which to plead Abu Talib's case before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which would have made all of Abu Talib's good deeds of protection and care and love for the Rasul count. It is that word, that kalima, that he begged for. But Abu Talib did not, unfortunately, say that, which was heartbreak for our Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because this kalima is the key to paradise. And we mentioned the words from the theme, and we'll just reiterate them here, that the believers remain steadfast during the life of this world because of their stable system of life based on this pure word. For this gives a straight point of view, a sound system of thought. With its help, people attain strength of character and solid principles of life, which bring about peace of mind and peace of heart, and it prevents people from deviation and from confusion. And above all, when after dunya they enter into the akhirah, they will remain perfectly calm, without any fear, without any anxiety. And this is something that's so important, because whenever something goes wrong, whenever there is a difficulty, whenever there's a trying situation, the first thing we feel setting in are these really uncomfortable, disorienting, and disempowering feelings of anxiety and fear and worry that take over your intellect and your ability to engage with the situation in an intelligent way, in a calm way, in an iman-based way. So the kalima is supposed to do just that for us. In the akhirah, when we open our eyes in that next world, everything will be according to the expectations, in the sense that, okay, there's this new life. There will be this questioning by the angels, who inshallah we hope will look beautiful to us, and the process will be eased, and it won't be like a shock. Like imagine an atheist when she dies. Like, imagine what it's like for them. Like, subhanallah, they see things they could not have expected. They were never part of their world. We cannot imagine the next life, but we know there's some type of accountability and muhasabah and these other beings in an akhirah. But when you expect nothing, then imagine the type of shock that will be caused by those things. So kalima, tawheed, faith brings calmness and firmness, in contrast to the disbelievers who will be taken aback. Everything will be against their expectations. When you could not have anticipated any of those things, then this will certainly be beyond what we call just rude awakening. And for the zalimin, they have no recourse to salvation, because there is no la ilaha illallah. They chose a life of denial, not a life of affirmation of their fitrah, no affirmation of Allah's oneness and presence and return to Him. So when here at the end of this verse, Allah says, Allah lets them go astray. Note, He doesn't make them go astray. He doesn't force anyone to go astray, nor does He force anyone to believe. Maududi mentions how Allah lets the transgressors who chose to discard the pure word, chose to discard La ilaha illallah, they're allowed to go astray. They can do that. They have that free will. So they go astray, and there's confusion in their minds, and all their efforts are in vain. And so there's no way they can find a way out when their eyes close forever. Shaykh Saadi rahimahullah ta'ala has beautiful insights in this. For those of you that are students of Arabic, I always like to share the Arabic so you can inshallah gauge where you are and hopefully become familiar or be inspired to learn, to understand inshallah. يخبر تعالى أنه يثبت عباده المؤمنين أي الذين قاموا بما عليهم من إيمان القلب التام. So Shaykh Saadi says that here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informs us that He will grant firmness to His believing servants, those who were upright, were firm in their complete iman. Complete iman permeated their hearts. الذي يستلزم أعمال الجوارح ويثمرها. And that full iman of the heart is what bears the fruit of righteous actions that appear on their limbs. فَيُثَبِّتُهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. So Allah grants them firmness in this life, and part of firmness in this life is to be able to continue to do good deeds with steadfastness. In the wurud al-shubahat bil-hidayah ila al-yaqeen, and also the ability to ward off doubts for guidance for La ilaha illallah and the ensuing guidance of that creed, to be able to ward off the doubts that come our way in the life of this world and to replace them with certainty. وعند عروض الشهوات بالإرادة الجازمة على تقديم ما يحبه الله على هوى النفس ومراداتها. Very beautiful insight. And the same kalima, the same creed of tawheed and belief in Allah's oneness, when faced with one's own shahwat, one's own desires, then this belief, this iman, is what allows them to have firm determination in preferring and giving preference to what Allah loves over what their nafs desires. this cannot happen without a firm grounding. This cannot happen without a firm attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the belief in the akhirah must triumph and be greater in our minds than the belief of the life of this world. That's when actions are completely different. The action of the one who believes in the akhirah and has more certainty in it than they have in the life of this world. And this is again what we see coming from our brothers and sisters in Palestine. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alleviate their condition, ease their situation, calm their fears, and grant them a speedy victory over their enemies. But subhanAllah, the things that come out of their mouths, the words of iman and thabat and firmness, it's not possible to remain this way and to respond in this way unless the yaqeen in what is with Allah in the akhirah for them is greater than what they see of this life. So this is Allah granting them firmness. And في الآخرة عند الموت بالثبات على الدين الإسلامي والخاتمة الحسنة. And in the akhirah, at the time of death, there will be this firmness. And inshallah, a beautiful ending, a beautiful end, a beautiful death. Husn al-khatimah, a good ending upon iman, a good ending upon faith. For those who held on to it, to their iman till the very end. وفي القبر in the su'al al-malikain. And this thabat, this firmness that Allah grants them because of their tawheed, because of their iman, Allah grants them in the grave the ability to answer the questions of the angels, munkar wa nakir, in the grave, to answer them correctly, the jawab al-sahih, to give the correct answer in the grave is part of the thabat or firmness mentioned in this verse when it talks about how Allah grants firmness to those who believe in this world and in the next world. That next world includes the moment of being questioned in the grave by the angels when the mayyat is asked, Man rabbuk, wa ma dinuk, wa man nabiyyuk, right? When they ask us, who is your Lord? And what is your deen and who is your prophet? Right? هداهم للجواب الصحيح بأن يقول المؤمن الله ربي والإسلام ديني ومحمد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. So they will be, inshallah, guided to the correct answer. And obviously, it's not the kind of answer you can just memorize, and say if you didn't believe it and if you did live it. It's only going to come out if you had actually lived your yaqeen and belief in that answer in your worldly life, right? That Allah is indeed my Lord, and Islam is indeed my deen, Muhammad is indeed sallallahu alaihi wasallam, my prophet, right? As for the ظالمين ويضل الله الظالمين عن الصواب في الدنيا والآخرة. As for the ظالمين, the wrongdoers, Allah lets them go astray, deviate from as-sawab, from the correct path in this world as well as in the next life. وَمَا ظَلَمَهُمُ اللَّهُ وَلَكِنَّهُمْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُم. And of course, Allah does not wrong anyone. He did not wrong them. This is what they chose. وفي هذه الآية ضلالة على فتنة القبر وعذابه. And in fact, what the ulama have said, reiterated here by Sheikh Sa'di, is that this ayah is an evidence, a proof for the fitna of the qabr and the punishment of the qabr as well as its rewards, right? So this is not up to any dispute or shak or doubt that, oh, is there punishment in the grave or is there a reward in the grave, or will that only happen after the day of judgment? Verses like this make it quite clear, and is of course aided by some of the hadith we're going to share, كما تواترت بذلك النصوص من النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. And of course we have evidences about the reward and punishment of the grave. I'm going to share some of those now. Ibn Kathir actually reports a narration from Bukhari on the authority of Bara bin Azib radiyallahu anhu, that the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, المسلم إذا سئل في القبر شهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد رسول الله فذلك قوله يثبت الله الذين آمنوا بالقول الثابت في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة. So in tafsir of this verse, the Rasulullah has a narration in Bukhari, which means when the Muslim is questioned in the grave, he will testify that La ilaha illallah and Muhammad Rasulullah. And so that is how Allah will keep firm those who believe with word that stands firm in this world and in the hereafter. Translation of the verse we just did. Also, Imam Ahmad has an recorded from the same narrator, Ibrahim bin Azib, who said, we went with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to attend a funeral procession of an Ansari. We reached the grave site when it had not yet been completed. Yani it was still being dug. It was still being prepared for the burial. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sat, and we sat all around him as if there were birds hovering above our heads. So this is one of the practices of the Sahaba, out of the respect and attentiveness. They would not move in the presence of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you compare that to how distracted we are in our gatherings and classes, subhanAllah. The Rasul sallallahu was holding a piece of wood in his hand, poking the ground with it. He next raised his head and said twice or thrice, Ista'idhu billahi min azab al-qabr. Seek refuge in Allah from the punishment of the grave. He then said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what means when a believing slave is reaching the end of his term in the life of this world and the beginning of his term in the hereafter, a group of angels whose faces are white and as radiant as the sun will descend onto him from heaven. They will carry with them white shroud from paradise and fragrance for enshrouding from paradise. They will sit as far from him as the sight goes. Yani, it's not that they're necessarily sitting far from him. Yani, they're as many as the eye can see from the point of view of the mayyit, of the deceased. Then the angel of death will come until he sits right next to his head, saying, O good and pure soul, depart, yani to Allah's forgiveness and pleasure. So the soul flows out of the body just as the drop flows out from the tip of the jug, and the angel captures it, yani with complete ease. It's a silky, smooth, flowing, natural, departing of the soul. When he captures the soul, they, yani the angels, well, there are lots of them, until as much as your sight can see at that point. When he captures the soul, they, yani the angels, will not leave it with him for more than instants, and they will seize it and wrap it in that shroud and in that fragrance. You see the eagerness of the malaika, of the angels, to get this good soul and be the ones who, wrap it in this beautiful, fragrant shroud. A most pleasant musk scent ever found on the earth will flow out of the soul, and the angels will ascend it, yani, with the heaven. They will not pass by, but they will say, whose is this tayyib, yani good soul? They, the angels who are sending the soul, will reply, such person, the son or daughter of such and such a person, calling him by the best names that used to be called in the world. They will reach the lower heaven and will ask that its door be opened for him, and it will be opened for them. The best residents of every heaven will then see him to the next heaven. He will take him to the next heaven until he's brought to the seventh heaven. Allah the Exalted and Ever High will say, list my servants and record my servants' record in Aliyin. Okay, this is the register of the good people. In Aliyin, and send him back to earth, for I have created them from it, and into it I shall return them, and from it I shall bring them out once again. The soul will be joined with its body, and two angels will come to him, sit him up, and ask. So it's after all this, and obviously this is a very delightful, beautiful, refreshing experience for the soul. We can't really describe it. But then after that, it's so nice that after that experience, that's after, once the soul is joined with its body, then the two angels will come to him, sit him up, and ask him, who is your Lord? Okay, so after you've been through this, You've just been very encouraged. You've been very beautifully reminded. And the answers, imagine how easy it's going to be now that you've seen all the beauty that awaits you and that you're about to have a beautiful barzakh experience, right? Then they ask him, who is your Lord? He will say, Allah is my Lord. They will ask, what is your religion? He will say, my religion is Islam. They will say, what do you say about this man? Yani Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and was sent to you, and he will say he is Rasulullah, right? He is the messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. They will ask him, and what proof do you have about it? He will say, I read the book of Allah and had faith and belief in him. So subhanAllah, these moments that we spend with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we hope this is something that adds light to our grave and makes our mizan heavy and eases for us the answers to the questions. No moment with the Quran is in vain. It brings nothing but light and blessings and reward. So he will say, I read the book of Allah and had faith and belief in him, and in the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Then a caller will herald from heaven, my servant, yani this is obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the caller here. My servant has said the truth, therefore furnish him from paradise and let him wear and from the clothes of paradise and open a door for him to paradise. So he's given from paradise's tranquility and good scent, and his grave will be expanded for him as far as his sight can reach. Then a man with a handsome face and handsome clothes and whose scent is pleasant will come to him saying, receive the glad tidings with that which pleases you. This is the day which you were promised. He will ask him, who are you? Who are you? For yours is the face that carries good news. He will reply, I'm your good works. I'm your good deeds. And then this deceased person will say, oh Lord, hurry up with the commencement of the hour. Hurry up with Yawm al-Qiyamah. Hurry up with the Yawm al-Qiyamah, right? The start of Yawm al-Qiyamah, so I can return to my family and my wealth, right? So the eagerness that's in, because what is seen of the beauty is already so overwhelming and enticing that this person cannot wait to have Yawm al-Qiyamah ushered in, subhanAllah. So, this is going to be the experience, inshallah, of the good soul, right? And look at the beautiful loyalty of our good deeds. Sister Lori at the beginning spoke about our reliance on friends, and we hope that they'll help us out in difficult time, and this is why we invest in friendships, right? Well, the best friend you can ever have, your real BFF, as they call it, best friend forever, really, is your good deeds. They're never going to leave you. That's the only thing that will never, ever leave you. So make them your best friends. Have lots of them, right? Have lots of them. And what, greater comfort than for them to actually come in the shape of good, beautiful looking, beautiful smelling, beautiful vibing company that is going to be a source of such great comfort, such great companionship when you will need it the most, when there will be no human beings to fulfill that role, right? But Kathir continues with the narration, which means, verily when the servant is placed in his grave and his friends or family depart, as he hears the sounds of their shoes, 2 angels will come to him. They will sit him up and ask, what do you say about this man? As for the believer, he will say, I bear witness that he is Allah's servant and messenger. He will be told, look at your seat in the fire. Allah has replaced it for you with a seat in paradise. Okay, so these are additional narrations. Again, we had mentioned that there are many, many narrations which confirm the existence of both punishment and reward in the grave. So we're just going through some of them so that you're familiar. And the Rasul said next, فَيَرَاهُمَا جَمِيعًا. Each individual will see both places, right? The servant who is good is also shown their maqam in the fire had they not obeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the reverse is also true. The evil soul will be shown place they could have had in paradise had they obeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. that will only increase their regret. Qatada, the great Mufassir, adds here about this good soul. We were told that his grave will be enlarged up to 74 arms length and will be filled with greenery for him until Yawm al-Qiyamah. Imam Muslim also collected this hadith in his Sahih. Another narration from Bukhari, which again proves the punishment of the grave, is one of the du'as of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he used to make, which is in Bukhari. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min 'adhab al-qabr wa min 'adhab an-nar min fitnat al-mahya wal mamat wa min fitnat al-masih ad-dajjal. Right? So we're familiar with this dua, and obviously, sometimes we read them out of routine, not realizing what they affirm. Allah, the Rasul is seeking refuge from the adhab of the grave. Allah, I seek refuge in you from the adhab, the punishment of the grave, and from the punishment of the fire, and from the fitna, the test or the trial of life and death, and from the fitna of al-Masih ad-Dajjal. So one quick tip for having your best friend in your grave, there are many good works that you can do, but a really easy tip for increasing your good deeds today that you could do immediately in a few minutes is this narration, which I love, right? Where the Rasul said, أَيَعْجِزُ أَحَدُكُمْ أَن يَكْسِبَ أَلْفَ حَسَنَةٍ. That the Rasul said to those sitting with him, is one of you incapable of attaining 1,000 good deeds? So that's a lot, right? 1,000 good deeds. So a questioner among those seated with him, Sallallahu asked him, how can one of us earn 1,000 good deeds, like in one day? How can you earn 1,000 good deeds? So he said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when one of you recites 100 tasbihat, yusabbihu ahadukum miya tasbiha, yani subhanallah, subhanallah, subhanallah. When one of you recites 100 tasbihat, 100, not 1,000. When one of you recites 100 tasbihat, 1,000 good deeds are written for him, and 1,000 evil deeds are wiped away from him. يسبح أحدهم 100 تسبيحة تكتب له 1,000 حسنة وتحط عنه 1,000 سيئة. Okay, this is actually a Hasan Sahih hadith. So, subhanallah, sometimes, we don't realize how easy it is to, gain an enormous amount of good deeds in a short period of time every single day. It's just a matter of remembering, of not forgetting. This is why dhikr has the status that it does. This is why the dhakirin are so close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's because even though they are in this world, their bodies are in this world, their hearts have already traveled to the akhirah, right? I believe it was Ibn Qayyim who said, one of my favorite quotes is that we do not traverse the distance between us and Allah with our bodies, rather we traverse it with our hearts. So it's a matter of a heart being a heart that remembers, that does not forget. And it's only if you don't forget the akhirah and are keen to have your best friend secured for you in your grave, your good deeds, then such a person will seek out deeds that bring great hasanat on a daily basis, right? So one such thing, which I thought I would share, inshallah, all of you can start doing this today. It takes 5 minutes to say subhanallah like 100 times. And how else would you be able to get 1,000 good deeds in one sitting and wipe away 1,000 evil deeds, right? Same thing with Qul Huwallahu Ahad. If you say it 10 times in a day, a palace is made for you in paradise. Same thing with if you rather offer the 12 rak'ahs of sunnah prayers, right? 2 before Fajr, 4 before Dhuhr, and 2 after Dhuhr, and then 2 after Maghrib, and then 2 after Isha. If you do these 12 rak'ah sunnah prayers, you get a house made for you, a palace made for you in paradise. Like, subhanAllah, which millionaire can get, an extra beautiful beachfront property in like 5 minutes if they work 5 minutes, or 10 minutes. What does it take? 12 rakahs take maybe 12 minutes or less, right? These people who make these beautiful, extra lavish residences for themselves work 14 to 16 hours a day, sometimes more, 6 days a week. Here, Allah is giving us shortcuts that we can do within a matter of minutes in a day, not for a house, on a beach, but for a house in paradise, an eternal residence, and that you can get one every day, or as many times as you say. For example, Qul Huwallahu Ahad 10 times, so on and so forth. Sometimes it's like so easy that we feel it's too good to be true, and then we wind up neglecting doing them at all, and that bankruptcy and that khasara and that loss cannot be quantified. So let's believe what we are told, because we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we believe in the words of his messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So let's go for it, inshallah, when we know the narration is Hasan Sahih, as in this case, right? Okay, let's go on to verses 28 and 29, which we will look at together, inshallah. Let's look at 28 and 29 together. Alam, do you not? So is Hamzatul Istifham, the Hamza that asks a question, and lam is not. So it's like, don't you, basically. Tara, see. Ila, to. Alladhina, those. Baddalu, changed. Ni'mat Allah, the blessing of Allah or the favor of Allah. Kufra, into kufr, but here it means ingratitude. Wa ahallu, and ahallu caused qawmahum, caused for something else to be brought into its place. Qawmahum, their qawm, dar, place, abode, al-bawar, perdition or damnation or ruin. Okay, that's how you can understand bawar. Bawar is like destruction, in the sense of permanent ruin. So the flowing, and let's finish 29, then we'll do flowing for both. Jahannam, yani Jahannam, hell. Yaslawnaha, they shall roast therein. What? And bi'sa, evil or wretched, al-qarar, a place to settle in, a place to be in. Okay, 28 and 29. Did you not see those who have exchanged Allah's favor with ingratitude to him, causing their people to be cast in the abode of utter perdition or utter ruin or utter destruction? Hell, wherein they shall roast, how wretched a place to settle in. Okay, so here the word kufran is referring to ingratitude, because that's essentially what kufr is, right? It's essentially the utmost state of ingratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And here the result of ingratitude is a loss of blessing. There's this concept of exchanging the blessing of Allah through their ingratitude for those blessings, and instead earning a place of utter ruin and destruction for themselves and their people, yani the hellfire. And what a evil, wretched, horrible place that is, right? So the loss of blessing here is incredibly serious, because it is that unbearable torment of hellfire, whose heat will surround them from all sides, that will actually roast them, down to the bones, and they'll then be, and even further, and then they'll be given new skins, and the process continues. It's horrible, horrible, indescribable torment, right? Sheikh Sadi explains who this is referring to. يقول تعالى مبينا حال المكذبين لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من كفار قريش. So Sheikh Sadi says that this actually reference to the people of Quraysh. وما آل إليه أمرهم, the people of the Quraysh who changed the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon them and responded to them with kufr. And the blessing here was the sending of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam to them, sending of someone from among them as their messenger that was sent to them. يدعوهم إلى إدراك الخيرات في الدنيا والآخرة, who was calling them to gain all the khair of this world and the next. Had they accepted him, they would have been the rulers of the Arabs and successful in the next life, right? وَلِلنِّجَاةِ مِنْ شُرُورِ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. They would have saved themselves from all the evils of this dunya, the humiliating end that they met, the horrible deaths that they met, and everything that they went through in the akhirah. They could have saved themselves from all of that. فَبَدَّلُوا هَذِهِ النِّعْمَةِ بِرُدِّهَا. But they changed this great blessing by simply rejecting it. وَالْكُفْرِ بِهَا وَالصَّدَ عَنْهَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. They disbelieved in the blessing, they rejected the blessing, and they blocked it from their own selves and blocked others. So not only did they destroy themselves, but since they were the leaders, the Quraysh, the elite of the Arabs, and then the elite among the Quraysh also blocked and influenced others, even to the point they blocked Abu Talib, right? That's the unfortunate scene at his deathbed, is that when the Rasul was trying to get him to say La ilaha illallah, the leaders of the Quraysh were also there, shaming him into, will you die on, will you leave the deen of Abdul Muttalib? Will you leave the deen of your forefathers? Are you going to die? They having left, it's going to be said about you, left the the deen, the religion of your forefathers, this emotional blackmailing and shaming. So they destroyed themselves, and they also destroyed, the destiny of their people, of those that follow them, right? We'll wait for the adhan, just went off. Let's wait a few moments, we can respond to the adhan. So they changed the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon them and upon their people as well. And instead of responding to the call, their actions made them dwellers of the fire of hell. And so they became a source of ruin for their people. And well, they thought they were actually preventing them from harm, right? And the Tafsir also mentioned that زين لهم الخروج يوم بدر ليحاربوا الله ورسوله فجر عليهم ما جرى وقتل كثير من كبارهم, right? So this the Tafsir mentioned, Ibn Kathir mentions that this is actually a reference to the day of Badr and the Battle of Badr, when the people, the elites and leaders of the Quraysh actually, encouraged their people to go out and to fight the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Muslims, and this resulted in the killing of the major enemies of Islam on that day. So generally, those who have changed the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala into kufr through their ingratitude and caused the people to dwell eternally in the fire of hell along with them. Ali radiallahu anh says that this refers to the disbelievers, the kuffar of the Quraysh on the day of Badr. And he also mentions that the blessing of Allah was iman that came to the mushrikeen of the Quraysh, and they changed this blessing into kufr and led their people to utter destruction. And this includes all disbelievers, of course, right, who act in the same way, because again, the Rasul is a mercy to all of humankind. So all that reject him and lead their people to do so as well are in fact becoming a source of destruction, a source of misery for the people that think they are going to bring them benefit, right? So those who accepted the blessing of our Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they and were thankful for it, these will enter paradise, while those who denied it will enter the fire of hell, as we see from this verse, Jahannama yaslawnaha wa bi'sal qarar. Okay, let's start verse 30 and see how much we can get done. And ja'alu, they made lillahi, for Allah, andada, rivals or partners, لِيُضِلُّوا, in order to do what? يُضِلُّوا, lead astray. From سبيل, his path. قُل, say, تَمَتَّعُوا, enjoy, meaning enjoy for a little bit, right? Mata' is a temporary enjoyment. It implies a temporary enjoyment, right? Tamatta'u, enjoy, yani for a little bit. For, or so. Inna, indeed, masirakum, your destination. Ila, to annar, the fire. Verse 30. They have set up rivals to Allah that they may lead people astray from his way. Tell them, enjoy for a while. You are doomed to end up in the fire. Okay. So they made partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in order to mislead others from his way, right? So the warning that's given to them is enjoy yourselves for a while. It's only for a little bit, because your ultimate destination is the fire of hell, right? And, if you think about this verse, it makes clear that temporary enjoyment is in fact no enjoyment at all, if you really look at the larger picture, right? Especially when it's sinful temporary enjoyment, right? And Ibn Kathir mentions how, the implication here is whatever you were able to do in this life, go ahead, do it. No matter what you do or how much you enjoy or how little you enjoy, really. Right? Indeed, certainly your destination is the hellfire, because the return is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they have earned his punishment. And we have similar verses, for example, chapter 31, verse 24, نُمَتِّعُهُمْ قَلِيلًا ثُمَّ نَضْطَرُّهُمْ إِلَى عَذَابِ النَّارِ. We let them enjoy for a little while, then in the end we shall force them to enter a great torment. Okay, so the enjoyment for disbelievers in the life of this world, no matter how long they live, it is temporary. I often think of the example of Prince Charles' father. I forget his name now. Was it Philip? I think it was King Philip, if I'm not mistaken. And he lived, to be like 100? Was he like 100 years old? And Queen Elizabeth was reached just a middle age, right, beyond 90. And no matter how much they enjoyed and how long they lived, they saw like a century unfold before them. Like they were alive when the Ottoman Empire was, still around. Like, wow, that's a long time to be alive, and to see all these world wars and really to see the world completely change. And no matter what royal advantages and privileges and enjoyments they had, they are over. And they're over forever, right? So this mata' of dunya, no matter how long it appears, mata' al-hayat dunya, the life of this world, is but temporary, and therefore it is not worth enjoying in sin, because the consequences, of course, will be forever, right? We have verses like متاع في الدنيا ثم إلينا مرجعهم ثم نذيقهم العذاب الشديد بما كانوا يكفرون. Temporary enjoyment in dunya, then to us is their return. Then we shall make them taste the intense punishment because of what they used to, because of the kufr that they used to engage in. So I just wanted to impress the meaning of mata', the temporariness of the life in this world and its enjoyment, no matter how intense they are, to remember how short-lived they are, and in sin they are never ever worth it. And inshallah, we're going to pick up on this point that we just introduced with the beginning of this ayah, and pick up on this point and delve a bit further, inshallah, as we continue where we left off with verse 30 next Wednesday, inshallah. We'll have a reflection from Sister Nihad on any verse that she likes, up to verse 29, and then we'll continue on with verse 30. With that, inshallah, we conclude our session for today. Jazakumullah khair for attending. Please encourage a friend to attend along with you next week. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. And please remember our dear brothers and sisters in Gaza Allah's can grant them a great victory very soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.